Hi, everybody. It's Mark Middleton at Growing Boulder headquarters, GBHQ. And for years, two of my favorite topics, both of which I wrote about extensively in my book, Growing Boulder, Defy the Cult of Youth, are the power of our belief system and the importance of exercise as we age. And, the truth really is that we are aged less by our years and more by our belief system. Research has proven that those who have a positive view of aging live on average 7.5 years longer than those with a negative view. And even more importantly than that, it's not just that they live longer, their quality of life is much better. And while there never will be an elusive fountain of youth, the closest thing that there is to that is movement. It's regular exercise, which is why I am beyond excited to talk to today's guest. Dr. James Hicks is an integrative physiologist with a Ph.D. in biomedical sciences. In fact, for nearly 30 years, he's been a professor of ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of California in Irvine. He's an internationally known expert who has authored over 120 articles on topics that range from the evolution of the vertebrate heart to the physiological responses in microgravity. I think it's fair to just surmise it by saying this is one really smart dude. And as impressive as all of that is, I have to tell you what caught my attention is a new class that he developed and is now teaching at the University of California in Irvine. It's called Exercise as Medicine. It's a college class that examines how and why physical activity can actually work better for us than pills. So let's get with us as Dr. Hicks joins us now. I'm assuming from Southern California. Is that where you are, Doctor?
That's right where I'm at, right in Irvine. California.
Right in Irvine. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy, and obviously I love what you're doing. I love that you're aggregating and presenting all of this compelling evidence in a class for college students because while we at Growing Boulder are always saying it's never too late to make positive changes in your life, the truth is the earlier you start, right, the better off you're going to be, right?
Exactly right. One of the things that I like to tell the students is that we can't change our chronological age, but we can actually adjust our physiological age. We've known for a long time, many studies have shown that we peak in terms of our physiological capacity around 30 years of age, and then there is a decline. And some of that decline, I think previously people used to think, well, that decline was inevitable and you just declined along some slope. But what we know now is that that slope is not fixed. It can be adjusted, and we can improve our physiological capacity primarily by remaining active, physically active throughout our entire life. And it never ends. I mean, you can be sedentary most of your adult life and suddenly start to exercise regularly, and you will improve your physiological capacity and function. So that's why I wanted to start this class and express to students that not only is physical activity important when you're younger, but it's important throughout your entire life. And it really does act as you said in the introduction, almost like a fountain of youth.
I just love every bit of what you just said. And, I've looked at a lot of these studies, and I think the truth of the matter is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of these studies that we all paid attention to, a lot of these studies that really just supported the ageist belief that we do by necessity decline at a specific rate in terms of muscle mass and bone density and everything else. Those studies were done with populations of sedentary adults. And, Growing Boulder, we're big fans of the National Senior Games. Not that we care who wins any of these events, but because these are communities of people that are really rewriting the research.
Right. No, exactly right. One of the major advances in exercise physiology was that for much of the history of that topic over the 20th century, people thought, or physiologists thought, of the muscles as the engines of locomotion. And so a lot of focus on performance, sports performance, and how we did in athletic competition. But about 25 years ago, people began to study and investigate the fact that there are a variety of small molecules that are released from the skeletal muscles. And initially, these were called cytokines. And these cytokines actually would had effects not only on the muscle, but they would actually leave the muscle, enter the bloodstream, and have effects on different organ systems. We now know that those cytokines are called myokines. And there's something like 300, 400 different kinds of myokines that are released during physical activity. And they have positive effects on the brain, on bone, on skeletal muscle, on our GI tract. So what we know now is that the skeletal muscles are not simply just the engine of locomotion and movement, but they're actually acting as an endocrine organ, having positive benefits on all of our other organ systems. And so that discovery, I think, of myokines and their impact on other organ systems actually started to then filter over into how exercise could be used as a medicine, or thought of as a medicine, having real therapeutic effect. And so exercise not only helps prevent disease, but it actually can alter disease trajectories. And that's what I focus on in the class, and how regular physical activity can be used as a medicine.
It's just fascinating stuff. And, in cancer research, I know there's a whole new field of exercise in terms of cancer treatment. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's really, they call it exercise oncology. And there are numerous now of studies that show the benefits of exercise, again, not only in terms of reducing the risk of cancers, but also the effects of exercise during after diagnosis, during therapy, and during and surviving cancer. For example, the three best actually cancers that have been studied have been colorectal cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer. Numerous studies have shown that regular physical activity after diagnosis of any one of those cancers, colorectal, prostate, or breast cancer, end up increasing survivorship. They also, there's a recent study showing in men who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer that if it's metastatic, that regular aerobic exercise can slow the progression of metastatic cancers. So this field of exercise oncology is growing, and major cancer centers around the nation, like Memorial Sloan Kettering, the Mayo Clinic, UC San Francisco, City of Hope, they all have on their websites a lot of information now about the importance of regular physical activity in terms of, again, not only risk reduction of having cancers, but also how important it is in terms of mitigating the side effects of therapies like radiation and chemotherapy and immunotherapy, but also improving outcomes. And as I tell my students here at UC Irvine, exercise is not instead of medicine. Exercise is acting as an adjuvant, something that adds to standard medical practices and can actually improve your outcomes and change the trajectory of the disease. So that's really a lot of very exciting things going on in exercise oncology right now.
We're talking with Dr. James Hicks, who really is, the voice for this particular time, a voice we need now more than ever. And Dr. Hicks, it's great to hear you say that, the medical profession, the medical industry, the medical experts are starting to understand this, because, I think for many years, it's not been ageist in a way that was intentional, but it's just so easy for a lot of our physicians to think that beyond a certain age, little is possible. And, I read somewhere a quote that I love. If you've seen one 85-year-old, you've seen one 85-year-old.
Right.
It is a very diverse population today, and there are many 85-year-olds that are in better health than 45-year-olds.
That's absolutely right. In fact, if you look at cardiorespiratory fitness, again, I'm 67 years of age. I actually, my form of exercise that I enjoy is cycling. I go out on a road bike 5-6 days a week. I go out and I cycle anywhere from 120 to 150 miles a week. And I'm out there, keeping up with guys that are, in their 30s and 40s. And I think that it just says that you don't lose this capacity to improve your overall physiological function. There are things that happen as you age that, for example, your maximum heart rate, it declines as you age. But other parts of your cardiopulmonary system. Your heart gets stronger, you grow more blood vessels, you upregulate the energy processes in your muscles. So all of those things can improve or continue to improve if you regularly exercise as you age. So as I said, you're absolutely right. One of the things, though, that I think in terms of medicine that we have to do, and that I'm talking to my colleagues here about at UC Irvine, who are in the medical school and in the cancer center, is we have to get to a place where physicians feel comfortable in prescribing exercise. I know that the American College of Sports Medicine has really been pushing this idea, because a lot of times physicians will say to their patients, well, you just need to lose some weight or eat better and do some exercise. And that doesn't really mean a lot to an individual to say, well, do some exercise. What do they want me to do? And I think we have to get to a point where physicians really integrate, when they say do exercise, they actually prescribe the exercise. They might say, well, for your particular situation, whether you're a type 2 diabetic and you're trying to control it through diet and exercise, whether you have breast cancer, prostate cancer, or some other form of cancer, they need to be able to say, this is the kinds of exercise that I want you to be doing, and then start to treat it just as you would taking a medicine. We will, if we're prescribed a medicine for a particular condition, we tend to take it regularly as prescribed. And we should think of exercise and physical activity being the same way. And so as I see, and this is really how I think it was going to be important to integrate then exercise or physical activity with medicine, when physicians start being trained to understand the importance of it, and also able to actually prescribe it in a very systematic way.
It is sad because the evidence is irrefutable now, and yet I think only 17% of U.S. adults exercise enough, or 35% exercise at all. We have found, unfortunately, that many older adults think that exercise is a dirty word. And what we have found, and I'd love to get your feedback and hopefully your affirmation on this. We ended up talking a lot about prehabilitation, because I've come to believe that it's aging's ultimate no-brainer, in the sense that it's a given that as we age, we will all face a series of setbacks of one kind or another. And to a large extent, the type of interventions that are made available when we experience those setbacks and the extent and speed of our recovery afterwards will be determined by our overall fitness at the time. And a lot of people, I think, wrap their brains around that. Now they think, okay, it's not really exercise, it's prehabilitation. It's going to enable me to keep going. Does that make sense to you, sir?
It makes absolute sense. That the better overall level of fitness, the more resilient you will be in terms of dealing with, as you said, these kinds of setbacks that we all deal with as we age. And so it is, I love the term prehabilitation, because it really is helping you deal with some of the things that will occur during life. And the better shape you're in, the better cardiorespiratory fitness, the more you move, the better you're going to be in terms of dealing with those. So yeah, I completely agree.
Older adults need to hear this. The other thing that we've found that, since you're kind enough to chat with us, is that we're all afraid of running out of money before we run out of time. And another way that we've found a message that resonates in terms of getting people to move without talking about exercise is to talk about the health-wealth connection, and the fact that, the two are inextricably combined. We cannot improve our health without also improving our wealth, because it's a given. As we age, healthcare, the cost of healthcare is only going to go up. You're sitting in a seat in the middle of all this. Does that make sense to you as well, sir? That healthcare is going to get better, but it's going to get more expensive, and anything that we can do to eliminate or diminish our need for healthcare is going to help us as we age.
Again, I completely agree with that. I mean, for example, if we look at sort of at the diseases of Alzheimer's or dementia, right now, in the United States, we spend about $350 billion a year on care and treatment of Alzheimer's and dementia. By the year 2050, it's going to be estimated at $1.1 trillion in healthcare expenses just for those diseases. Now, exercise hasn't been shown to cure Alzheimer's or dementia, but regular physical activity has been shown to increase cognition and to increase memory and to improve memory. And it does that because when you exercise, the brain releases a compound called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And that brain-derived neurotrophic factor increases neurogenesis, that is the production of new neurons, and synaptogenesis, that is more connections between neurons, in a very important spot in your brain, the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is vitally important in memory and and being able to make relationships between different memories. There have been numerous studies showing that regular physical activity can delay the progression of memory loss and might actually delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease or improve those conditions. And right now at UC Irvine, is taking part in a large national clinical trial that is authored by one of our faculty members, Dr. Carl Kottman, who actually discovered the role of BDNF, this brain-derived neurotrophic factor, in its function in the brain. And this clinical trial is having people who are at risk for dementia and Alzheimer's undergoing regular physical activity every week, and they're making a whole variety of measurements. And the results of those will be shown, we'll know in a few years. But it's without a doubt, that's one example of how if we can use regular physical activity to delay the onset of a disease or to improve it or to slow its progression, that means that we end up saving a lot of money.
Man, I love that, because you just really hit the third big thing that we're all afraid of. In fact, I read a research project from the Rand Corporation, a new one. The two things that we've always said that all of us at our age fear more than death itself are dementia, cognitive decline, running out of money before we run out of time. And coming out of the pandemic, the Rand Corporation did a research project that says the number one thing we now fear is our loss of independence, i.e. having to move into nursing homes because, the nursing home industry took a major hit during the pandemic. So that is just fabulous. And folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Dr. James Hicks, who is a professor of ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of California in Irvine. He now teaches a college class about exercise as medicine. And Doc, I know the classes, people are standing in line to get into it, and I can tell by talking to you, some of it is because you're a very engaging instructor, but the subject matter has to appeal to younger people. What kind of response have you been getting?
It's been fantastic. For the last few years, I've taught just a very small seminar course that was only open to a handful of students that are participating in our exercise science major on this topic of exercise as medicine. And after about 3 years, I decided it was time to open up this class to all of our students on campus, and particularly to our bioscience students, but also I think down the road, I'm going to open up to other students as well. So this was the first time I ran the course, and I decided to cap the numbers at 85. We eventually opened it up to 89 students or 90 students, but I had 179 students on the waiting list to take this course. And throughout the course, students, we've done it through Zoom this year. Next year, we'll be doing it live and on campus as the pandemic wanes away. But I've had so many students tell me that this has been the best class they've ever taken. It really integrates all of the information they've been getting in biochemistry and anatomy and physiology, molecular biology. They're taking away messages that they want to provide to their parents and their grandparents and their aunts and uncles. And so I've just really enjoyed being with the students this quarter, and they've been very, as I said, very enthusiastic about the course. Today, they're actually taking their final exam. But it's been a really fun quarter, and I look forward to doing it next year.
It's a course that should be taught at every medical school in America. So bless you, sir, for doing it. Really important stuff. Looking forward, just about life in general, another thing that we like to talk about because it seems to resonate is this notion of compressed morbidity. I think we all, understand that none of us are getting out of here alive. And if we can extend our life our lifespan by 10 years, but we don't decrease the period of decline and disability at the end of our life at all. What good is that? But however, if we can live a few years longer and decrease the period of decline to months or days, then it's a huge win. Do you believe in the notion of compressed morbidity? Can we reduce the period of disease and disability and decline?
I definitely believe in that, and I do think that really what I'd like to tell my students is just what you just said earlier. We all know that we will eventually lose to entropy, right? No one gets out of here alive, essentially. But it's the quality of life that is incredibly important. And as we age, we want to be healthy agers, vital agers. We want to be able to, play with our grandchildren and go for bike rides with them and go bike rides with our wives or our partners or our significant others and go for hikes. And that is all going to be possible by being regularly active and staying active throughout your whole life. And yes, there will be a day that we all will pass away, but it's what is the quality of life that you've had once you get there? And that's, I actually show a 1-minute video to the students at the very end of the course. And it was actually put together by the Canadian Heart and Stroke Association. And it's called, What Do You Want to Do, or How Do You Want to Be the Last 10 Years of Your Life? And it just shows a split screen of the same actor. One is a very vital ager, out walking and playing with his grandchildren and going out to dinner and dancing with his wife. And the other is someone that is spending the last 10 years of their life suffering from a variety of comorbidities that prevents them from going for walks, and they have to use a commode by their bed. And this again can be prevented if we remain physically active. The other thing I do like to tell students is that, things can still happen to you as you age. And even if you've been physically active, people who are physically active, many will still get cancer. There will still be accidents and things that can happen that can slow you down. But again, staying physically active provides you more resilience than it would be if you had not been physically active. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
A perfect message. There are no guarantees in life. Bad things can happen to good people, but why not do what we can? And there is a lot that we can do to increase the possibility that we're going to be able to live big, bold lives.
Exactly.
What you do is amazing. It's an important message for everybody, regardless of our age. It's something that, as we're seeing with your students, that, they absorb and they need. And it is unfortunate because we are coming out of this pandemic, but yet really are in the midst of an epidemic of preventable chronic disease, which is, creating an onslaught of frail elderly. And we need voices like yours to flatten the curve of frail elderly, if you will, because they will overrun our healthcare system if we don't.
I completely agree. And I think that what you said, an epidemic, I actually start my course by showing these maps from the Centers for Disease Control that trace the development of type 2 diabetes and obesity in our country, going back to about 1993 or so and moving forward to now. And it's, for a lot of people that have not seen those maps, if you run them in a slide presentation, so they just overlap one another every second, people come away just simply shocked seeing the increase in type 2 diabetes and the increase in obesity in this country. And these are factors that over a lifetime can then will result in additional comorbidities associated with those conditions. And those conditions themselves, type 2 diabetes and obesity, are preventable. And they're preventable through nutrition, proper nutrition, and regular physical activity. When I was getting my PhD, I got it at the University of New Mexico School of Medicine. And when I took physiology with the other medical students, I remember one of the lectures on type 2 diabetes. And at that time, this was like in 1980, the professor called it age onset diabetes because the typical phenotype or the character of the individual getting age onset diabetes was typically male, overweight, 30, 40 pounds overweight, and in their 50s, 60 years of age. If you talk to a pediatrician in the 1980s, they never saw or rarely saw type 2 diabetes. That is where you produce insulin, but your insulin receptors are not as effective. In children, they never saw, but the pediatricians did not see it in children. But today, if you talk to a pediatrician, they are seeing it in children. So we're seeing a disease associated with nutritional aspects and with lack of regular physical activity starting to occur earlier and earlier. And someone has type 2 diabetes when they're 15, 16, 17, 30 years of age, that person is, unless they get that under control, they're going to have a whole variety of other comorbidities that will come out of that. And again, it can be solved by regular physical activity and, of course, better nutrition.
Well, I feel like we've all been very fortunate to be in your class today, Dr. James Hicks. And let me wrap this up with one final question that I always like to ask, big brains like yourself. And I know you could answer this with words I couldn't understand. So, maybe let's take it outside of the exercise physiology realm altogether.
Okay.
From your experience, what's the key to a successful life? What's the key to a meaningful life of engagement?
I know it will sound only cliche-ish, but you pursue things that you are passionate about, and you do that, and hopefully you're able to pursue those and make a living at it. I mean, I have loved and continue to love my career in academia, where I can study things that I'm interested in, and hopefully convey that to other people, not only in science, but other people who are in the lay public, to talk about the things that I'm passionate about. And to me, that's the most important thing. Enjoy, be passionate, be engaged, pursue your passion, and at the end of the day, I mean, as we've been saying all along, try to remain physically active. Go out and garden, go for walks, go dancing, go for a swim. You don't have to put on tennis shoes and go to a gym. You can just be physically active every day.
Passion and purpose is what continues to get us out of bed as we age. Dr. James Hicks, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And God bless you for what you're doing, because it's a message we all need to hear and comprehend and embrace. So thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I enjoyed talking to you. And I again, thank you very much. It's been great.
You bet. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. All righty. All right.
All right, folks, that was Dr. James Hicks, with a prescription for all of us. And, I don't know how many different ways we have to say it, how many different ways we've got to, try to make you see that you have to move. Moving is a good thing. It's a great thing. And here's the secret. Here's the truth. As hard as it may be to take the first step or the second step, it gets a whole lot easier. It's something that you will soon learn that you really can't live without. It's something that you'll look forward to. It's something that will make you feel better about your relationships, about your work life, about your passions, about your purpose. So figure out a way. Take the first step today. Get moving. Take it from Dr. James Hicks that exercise is the medicine you need. It's better than pills. We'll talk to you soon.